me about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and your purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dreams. Right now, inspirational perspective.
The topic today are the top 5 mistakes that I believe we make with money. Now, mind you, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a Wall Street professional or trader, but I am a coach. I work with people day in and day out on these type of topics, and because I'm a coach, I think about things like a coach in terms of what is our mindset and how we mentally preparing for what's coming next in our economy. And July this month is focused on work and money. So we'll be talking about career. We'll be talking about financial clarity. We'll be talking even quality of life. If you can wrap your mind around that. Because quality of life is just living the quality of life that you want to live. Like being able to do what it is that you want to do. Now, I know some folks are doing that, but they don't have the money for it. I'm talking about quality of life is when I have the financial ability to do exactly what I want to do and live the life that I intend to have. Drive the way I want to drive, live the way I want to live, travel the way I want to travel. Without it in any way coming back to boomerang on me negatively in the future. That's what I mean by quality of life. So we got some folks who live in a high quality of life, quote unquote, right now that I don't know, man. In the next 6 to 12 months, 18 months, it might not be quite that way. And so a couple of things I hopefully can warn the audience about. But ultimately, the top five mistakes that we make with money is what I want to talk about today. People always get upset with me when I say this, but I'm going to say it, man. Money is mental. Money is mental. And for those of us who have money, we get that, especially when we didn't have, like, there was a time where I did not have money, and that was due to a few things. But first and foremost, well, part of it was my lack of overall experience, my youth, but also my money mindset, the home I grew up in. How I learned to think about money, because let's be clear, there's some young people who are killing the game, but likely has to do with their money mindset and how they learn. Like when I think about my son and in the future, my daughter, and how they think about money, I'm going to pour everything I have into them. So their early 20s, they likely will be much further financially than I ever could have been. Now, let me start this off, like just with, for somebody who might be new listening and say, well, what makes this guy qualified to talk about money? I'll let you choose, but I spent time in corporate America. I understand. I've been through recession cycles in corporate America. I've seen how corporate organizations, and not entry level, but as a vice president and officer, I saw how we navigated recessionary periods, economic downturns, and I've seen that not just once, but multiple times as an executive leader. Today, I'm an executive coach and corporate trainer. I'm an entrepreneur. And all those things being said, I am financially stable, financially secure, and financially free. What does that mean? It means that, one, this economic downturn is not something I'm worried about. I want to be clear about that. So I'm not talking to you from my concern. I'm very clear about what's happening, what's going to happen. We're going to talk about that, what's going to happen. And I've worked with people and their mindset around money, the psychology of money. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about today. So when I talk about the top 5 mistakes with money, a lot of times one of the things you hear is we don't save enough, right? I've had financial experts here. You know, we've had those conversations. Oh, people live paycheck to paycheck. Look, the mistakes that folks are making and they will continue to make. How do we get out the cycle? I want to talk to you about the top 5 mental mistakes that we are making when it comes to money. So I promise you, you want to stay tuned, all right? Here's the other thing around my credibility. It's not just me that I'm helping with financial security, stability, and freedom. I've supported hundreds of other people in doing the same thing, and not just people, but also small businesses and corporations. And so I currently serve large brands across the nation and across the globe doing this. So if you're like, who's this young guy? I had a guy tell me at the restaurant, my family, we stopped and got some dinner. And he was like, oh, you couldn't be no more than 28, 29 years old. We were having a conversation. I said, man, I appreciate you. I truly do. But you might want to add another 15 or so. He was like, really? I'm like, yes. He was talking to me like, you know, when you get here, you'll understand. I'm like, I'm not that. I'm only 15 behind you. I'm 45. He was 60. So anyway, just in case somebody's like, what's this young kid got to say? I'm like, hey, thank God for, you know, they say black don't crack. Well, amen to that. And at the same time, I got a little experience. All right. So here's the first thing I want to say when it comes to money. Money ultimately is a mindset. Even if you can't wrap your mind around that, just stick with me and trust me. Now, often I say, don't trust me. Go check it out. Go check out the data. This time I'm going to say, trust me. Trust me as a black man. Trust me as an African American. Trust me as someone who grew up in a household where we had to pinch pennies and budget and figure things out. Trust me as someone who there was a time when I used to, like you, and maybe this is not you, but some of us, stand at the gas pump trying to figure out how much gas I could put in my car because I still had to buy milk and I still needed dinner and I had to figure out my meals for the remainder of the week and my coming and going. And so how much gas do I put in right now? And this is how I used to think. Some people, they think, and this is why money is mental, right? How I used to think is, and how much money can I make by the end of the week? Like, how much cash can I forage, right? And what I meant by that is somebody needs a lawn cut, right? I mean, dude, I was still shoveling other people's snow into my early 20s because it's cash. It was cash, right? So, like, I would think about those things because if I can make some money, I used to do construction work, lay tile, like ceramic tile in people's homes. I'd be like, okay, old girl said her mama needed ceramic tile. If I can knock that job out this week, that'd be an additional $600. So if I put, and that's in the suburbs, so I need to put at least $20 in my tank. That's back when gas is like $2.50, $3 a gallon, right? Then I can make it. So I understand where you all are. I also want to say that, right? If you have financial struggles, I understand and I get it. And I'm speaking from that place. The things that transform my money situation are the things I'm going to point out when we talk about these mistakes. Let me say this real quick. One of the reasons we're broke, one of the reasons many of us are broke, and let me define broke for you. Like, if you live paycheck to paycheck, you're broke. I don't care if you're bringing in 6 figures. You're broke. If you live paycheck to paycheck, if you don't have an emergency fund that you can pull from in case something happens, you're broke. If you don't have 6 to 8 months of your salary put away, so that way, if somehow potentially layoffs come, you can still sustain yourself without government assistance. Like, the government assistance should be a bonus. that should stop me from going into my emergency funds, right? I shouldn't be like, oh, I gotta, like that month between or that 45 days between when that check hit, and like that's not financial freedom. You're broke, okay? So I want to be very clear about what I mean, because here's what happens. We live to be entertained to the point where somebody is tuning into the show saying, oh, he talking money, whatever. And it's like, nah, if just because you're comfortable in this moment doesn't mean you shouldn't listen. All right. And so if you are broke, because most of us are, 80%, when I look at the numbers, 80% of us fall into the category of what can be called broke. And I know it's the 10th of the month. I was just telling the guys, like right now, a lot of our workers, they ain't been coming in, right? And I'm like, yeah, all right, that's fine. They'll be back at the end of the month. And in between time, I'm trying to find people who will work at the beginning of the month, right? So then if you come back at the end of the month, I might be like, we good. We good, man. I'll hit you if we need you, but we good, right? And so if that's where, it's just, wait until you hear what I have to say in terms of the show, right? But stick around. We live in a highly entertained society, and this is an important conversation. I'm telling you, an incredibly important conversation that I believe we all need to hear. How you think about money, it frames your money experience, your financial experience. It completely frames your financial experience. After today's show, I'm working with the Slayer Goals members. And one of the questions that I'll be posing to them, so for those of you all who are members, then you kind of getting a preview. But one of the questions I'll be posing to them is, do you believe that you deserve the best life has to offer? And let's just pause around that question. Because a lot of people right now are going to say, yeah, yes, but your actions don't align with that yes. Your speaking doesn't align with that yes. You'll say, well, Linnell, what do you mean? And here's what I mean. If I believe that I deserve the best that life has to offer me, then my speaking everywhere. Like, no matter my financial situation, it's coming. Really listen to what I'm saying right now. No matter my financial situation, I'm saying it's going to be okay. It's coming. I'm saying, this is interesting. I'm feeling a bit of a squeeze, but a door is going to open. I'm saying that because I believe in my heart that I deserve the absolute best, which means that it must be around the corner. It means it's coming, and it means that there must be a lesson. There must be something I must travel through to get there, but it's coming. Our words have so much power. Our mental language has so much power. And so that is how I see my current circumstance. If that's not what you've been saying to yourself, because most people, that's not how we communicate with ourselves around money. Oh, here we go, or something else. Oh, I can't believe. Oh, what else is going to happen? So as soon as I get some money, something always happens. You are literally, as you say it, recreating with your words your financial situation. Many of us have talked our way into the financial mess that we're currently experiencing. Just be with that. Many of us have talked our way into the financial mess that we're currently experiencing or that we will experience. So, money is about not just mindset. Money has a lot to do with what you say to yourself, what you say to others, and most importantly, how you think about it. How you think about it. You cannot achieve what you cannot believe. Henry Ford said, if you believe you can or you cannot, you are right. And I can't even begin to start a money conversation or about mistakes that we make without addressing the number one mistake that happens in our thinking. We learned our way of being with money. We learned it. And so in some ways, we learned this poor person or this broke mentality or this financial struggle mentality from our parents. And it's the only thing that we were exposed to. I'm going to talk about exposure later, financial exposure. It's one of the mistakes that we make, that we do not give ourselves financial exposure. What do I mean by that? I don't like him. He think he all that because they got this, that, and the other. I ain't going over there. I don't like being around them. When you're around them, you gotta be how, you gotta act a certain way, and everybody got that auntie or uncle, or you feel a squeeze when you walk in their house because, like, take your shoes off, son. Right? But they got money, though. But you avoid going over there because you feel uncomfortable, and the reason you feel uncomfortable is because you feel uncomfortable with wealth. But at the same time, you can say, I believe I deserve the best that life has to offer, when what you should be doing is trying to get comfortable in that space and exposing yourself to that type of lifestyle, exposing yourself to that type of thinking, exposing yourself to that type of mentality. But that's what many of us will cut that off. I don't like them. We hate on the folks that got, and hang out with the folks that's like us that don't got. Financial exposure is a huge mistake. I'll dive in. The lack of financial exposure is a huge mistake. I'll dive into that later. I can't even begin to tell you how financial exposure and being exposed to people around me who made money helped me out tremendously. One of the first things that we do, you guys know I love goals. I believe goals are important. But one of the first things I do before we begin to distinguish what they believe are their goals, before we even begin to distinguish their possibility. And when I went through coach training, one of the things they said is, one of the first things you do with your client, this is how they trained us. And I just, over time, I began to disagree, and I changed my practice. And I believe, once you gain a certain level of mastery, you can do that. But they're like, one of the first things you want to do with a new client is distinguish their possibility. Like, what's possible? Because the idea is to hook the client on what it is they said they wanted as their anchor for commitment when things get hard. You say, oh, remember you said this is possible? That's what we're going for. And so they would say, Linnell and, everyone else who I was being trained with, that you should distinguish possibility. And I said, over time, I started that way. And over time, I began to think, I'm like, no, people don't even understand their possibility if they don't understand how they think. And like, man, give me a call if you not understand. I'm trying to go slow and be very clear. But a person doesn't even understand their full potential and possibility if they don't know how they think. Because if you don't know how you think, you don't understand your mental blocks and barriers that will keep you from fully even seeing what's possible in your life. So, one of the things that hurts us when it comes to money, this is not one of the mistakes because this is just a reality. I'm setting the table for you. But one of the things that hurts us is a lack of knowledge about our own cognitive distortions. What is a cognitive distortion? A cognitive distortion is a mental illusion. In the first month when a client comes to me, we don't talk about goals. I'll hear a little bit about maybe something they want to create. I'll listen to them. They're like, oh, I really want to create this with you. Typically that happens in the very first few phone calls when they're trying to make a decision as to whether or not they're going to hire me. But after they made that decision, I don't go, so what else you want to do? At that point, I'm like, I just want to listen to you. Hear me out again. I just want to listen to the client for 1 month. 3-hour sessions. I'm just listening. I'm listening and reflecting. Listening and reflecting. Hey, what's going on in your life right now? They tell me. I'm like, okay, listening and reflecting. Listening and reflecting. And what I'm reflecting is, did you notice you said this way? Did you notice that when you complained about X, Y, and Z, that lives in what I've already identified for you as your pervasive context or cognitive distortion, that mental illusion we've been pointing to? Because I want them to see any flaws in their thinking that is not going to support what they want to create. That's why I start there. That's where we're going to start in today's conversation. Now, a little bit more about cognitive distortions. A cognitive distortion is your filter. So even as you listen to me, what happens, especially if you're under stress, or especially if something I say triggers you or creates some level of emotion, that filter almost automatically begins to basically filter out anything I say. This is one of the reasons why you may not understand something I'm saying. Or you might be like, that don't make sense. That cognitive distortion is either going to make me right or wrong. That's one of them. Like right, wrong, where you're looking for, this is wrong, that's wrong. And it's like, what if you just listen to listen? Like, what if it didn't have to be right or wrong? What if you just listened to learn and stayed out of that particular context, that box that you normally live in, that has you living the way you live now, that has you creating the way you create now? Just what if you decided to put that to the side? Another one is enough, not enough. That was mine. Everything was, do I have enough? Do I not have enough? And by the way, if your mental thinking is, don't never have enough, then guess what your reality will be? You will not have enough. Right? And so if that's your mental context that plays over and over and over again, that's your filter, this is the reason why in your financial life, you never have enough. Because it is a pervasive thought that is so a part of your thinking that you don't even notice it. You think these thoughts without even noticing them. You don't even see them go by. Anybody who meditates understands what I mean when you say you don't. Because when you meditate, you're instructed. So when you notice a thought in your meditation, you just let the thought go by. Oh, okay. I was thinking about money. And then it goes away. Right? And then, because the mind is always, and the beauty of meditation is you begin to notice your thinking. Like you start to see these patterns in thinking. Oh, well, look at that thought. That came in too. I'm trying to clear my mind and these thoughts are coming in, right? That's the beauty of meditation. But anyway, you begin to see these things about yourself, which is why slowing down and meditating is so powerful. So cognitive distortions are based on our experiences, often through childhood. So unless you grew up in a wealthy household, it is a high possibility that you do not have wealthy thinking. Now, some folks getting ready for church and they like, I don't need wealthy thinking, Linnell. I have kingdom thinking. All right, well, let's talk about kingdom thinking. Okay, let's talk about that. Because if you have kingdom thinking, that means that you believe that you are a child of God. If you are a child of God, there is no problem that's too large for God, which means that you don't operate in fear. You don't get nervous about financial situations because, Daddy got it at the end of the day, right? That's kingdom thinking. You just said you had kingdom. I have kingdom thinking, Linnell, right? So that means that, anything financial, you have the ability to give it all to God. You have a phenomenal relationship with the Creator. And because you have a phenomenal relationship with the Creator, you trust Him so much that you are obeying and listening to everything that He says, including about that job if it's time to go. That's kingdom thinking. Right? Because if Daddy's a king and he says it's time to stop working in the barn and the stable and come into the court, that's what you do. You don't go, well, who gonna pay me when I come into the court, Lord? That's not kingdom thinking. And I'm just putting it out there because we have these answers sometimes. We don't even realize that, they're programmed inside of us. But that's kingdom thinking. My Father is a king, which means that He controls and runs everything, which means that when it comes to my finances, when it comes to my money, I have no worries. I'm looking to him. He is guiding me. He is educating me. He is taking me to the places and putting me in the places and putting me around the people that are going to develop me so I can too run a kingdom. That's kingdom thinking, just so we're clear. Okay. So, and by the way, part of the reason we're in the situation we're in is because we gave the kingdom away. Literally gave it away. We're not supposed to even be in these kind of conversations, but we gave it away. Now, here's the thing. I want you to write this down if you can, or type it out in your phone. We live within the stories we tell ourselves. Not the things that we want to believe. Not the things we say so people hear it, right? Because you'll have people say, I'm a millionaire by faith. And it's like, well, it sounds good. But again, remember, faith means belief plus action. So then if you're a millionaire by faith, it's not just what you believe. Are you taking the actions that are aligned with becoming a millionaire? Very simple. All right. So your thinking and how you grew up has an impact. And so what happens is we begin to tell, like, we learn how to tell ourselves stories. Hope my sister don't get mad at me, but my baby sister. My baby sister's doing incredibly well for herself financially, right? I'm so proud of her. At Ernst & Young, she's doing phenomenal things, a leader, and she's making great money. And over the past few months, we've been working on preparing my mom's house for sale, et cetera, for the trust. And she would say, and one of the things she would say to me is, Linnell, like, you throw money at everything. Like, why you throwing money? Because you're like, oh, we need this and that and the other. I'm like, let's hire somebody, right? And she'd be like, I'm just going to do it myself. And the conversation I had with her was, I'm like, sis, man, you're worth too much to do that kind of work. Like, what you are bringing in an hour in the job that you have doesn't equate with you mopping a floor in mom's house when you can hire somebody to do that. Because she's like, you throw money at every situation. And I had to explain to her the reason why I'm like, let's hire somebody is because when I'm talking to a corporate executive and I'm charging them well over 4 figures an hour to be in that conversation, what sense does it make for me to turn around the next hour and mop a floor? Not that I'm above that. All right? Not that I'm above that. But what sense does it make if that's my earning potential? One of the reasons we aren't where we are, where we need to be financially, is because we don't value ourselves. And so what sense does it make for me then to turn around and mop my office floor after I just got off of a 4-figure an hour coaching conversation? Like, what sense does that make? If I could be in another conversation like that instead of mopping the floor. I don't mean I don't never mop floors, y'all. I mean, my son spills something, I'm going to mop it up, all right, okay? But I want you all to understand what I mean by this. So instead of me going to my mom's house to mop the floor, I'm going to say, who can go into the house and mop the floor? Okay, you can do that for $30? Done. Done, right? And by the way, the person who has that, I know people who are doing well with cleaning businesses. The person who has the cleaning business, they want that $30 because they're going to say, okay, I'm going to pay this person $20, I take 10. And they didn't do anything but make a phone call, right? That's the leverage of owning businesses, right? That's a 33% margin. Most people are like $10. They're taking it. That's a 33% margin on your business transaction. What is your mental financial blueprint? What is the story? What is your financial money story. Like, what is not the one you want to tell yourself, but the one you are telling yourself. Like, this is where self-awareness is huge. This is where making sure you can really get down to the thoughts that you are sometimes ignoring is incredibly important. Like, what is your true money blueprint, financial blueprint? Now, at the top of the hour, when we come back from break, I'm going to start covering the 5 mistakes. And I'm going to ask a question before we go to break, and I really want you to think about this. I'm going to ask a question before we go to break. I'm going to come back. I'm going to take some phone calls. We're going to go through the 5 mistakes. As we go through these 5 mistakes, again, just so you understand my credibility, right? Not only have I achieved this certain level of financial freedom, stability, and success with the Creator's help, like all glory to Him, with the Creator's help. But I've also studied most of these financial authors: T. Harv Eker, John Assaraf, Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman. I mean, the list goes on. Like, I've read almost every resource there is. I mean, one of the gifts the Creator gave me was this curiosity. In my early 20s, I said, I don't know nobody that really make a lot of money, like, for real. I mean, and the common theme between the people I'm around and their current financial situation is that they're not money literate. And I made a decision that I was going to be money literate. And so before I had money, I was reading about money. I was like, how does money work? We talk about that. Like, we're currently at the beginning of a recession that on a personal level, I believe is going to really hurt our community. And I was just telling the fellas about it before the start of the show. United States is $63 trillion in debt, you all. And being $63 trillion in debt, our overall, like what we make overall GDP, we only make a third of that. Interest rates are going up due to inflation. The Fed they're running inflation up, which means that this debt in the United States comes due in the next 3 to 5 years. Like, hear me out. Like, it comes due. If interest rates, and by the way, according to projections, interest rates aren't coming down. All right. And we've experienced these brand new lows like over the last few, but it hasn't been normal. All right. We're kind of going back to what normal has been when you look at the average of interest rates in the United States of America, which means the United States is going to have to refinance this debt at a higher interest rate. So all the folks who are not working right now, all the folks getting government money and subsidies, guess what? When they refinance that debt, it's going to happen. It's going to dry up. It's going to dry up. And if we're not preparing ourselves, it's going to be devastating to our community. The first big mistake that I'm addressing is how we think about money. How we think about money. And to frame it, how I put the mistake is thinking you don't have enough. Mistake number 1 is thinking you do not have enough money. Now, right now, somebody was saying, but Linnell, I don't. That's what they're saying right now. Linnell, I don't. And then they're going to even say, it's a fact. It's a reality. When I balance my checkbook, Linnell, there is quote, and I say, not enough. Now, I just spent the first hour talking about the mental aspects of money. And so when I say that I don't have enough money, then I'm also saying that I'm not equipped to go out and get what is necessary for me to sustain myself. You got to remember that our words are so powerful. This is what I meant by it. But what's the energy? What was the energy of the comment? What was the energy of what it is that you said? Because that is what produces and creates your reality of life. And so when you say I don't have enough from lack versus, it occurs as if I have a money opportunity because I just balanced my checkbook and I'm in the red. And so what will I do this week to be back in the black? Like that's just one example of the shift in mentality that will begin helping you climb out of financial debt and financial struggle. Here's the second question. Then I'm going to take some calls. Richard, you're up in a moment. Have you decided to be financially successful? Like, have you, and I just want you to think about it because, again, a lot of these questions, the first thing is, well, yeah. And it's like, no. Key word is be. Have you decided to be, in this moment, financially successful? Because when I'm being a particular type of way, things shift and things change. Okay, like my way of being, my state of being shifts. And it's that state of being that begins to attract or bring in a new reality. So have you decided to be financially successful? And by the way, here's the other piece. When you've made this decision, when you're committed to this, then what people think, it doesn't matter anymore. What people say, well, you wear those shoes every Sunday. Like, it doesn't matter because I have committed to being financially successful. Yes, ma'am, I do wear these shoes. You know what? They're comfortable and they're a new color and I can wear them with every outfit. And ain't God good? Right? Like I wear these because I'm not wearing these shoes based on what you think about me. I'm wearing these shoes based on where I am right now financially and where I intend to be. Because I have chosen, like I'm committed to being financially successful over and beyond what you think, over and beyond the fact that I rotate my ties every Sunday and I only get 5. What sense does it make for me to go buy another $50 tie so I can look like the rest of the bros? Like, nope, I'm more committed to my financial success long term than what you think. So if they crack a joke, second Sunday tie, huh? I'm like, that's right, brother. I'm happy you noticed. And so you already know what I'm wearing next week, amen. Like, we get too caught up, like, in what other people, they begin controlling us. And then that's why when you look at, anyway, you get my point. Have you decided to be financially successful? And that might mean staying in the house you're in a little longer. It might mean staying in the car you're in a little longer. It might, like, none of this. We have gotten into, like, society has pushed us into becoming so externally focused that many of us are taking their eye off ourselves in what it is that we truly intend to do and who it is we truly intend to be. So ask yourself that question, like, have you decided to be financially successful?
Where this showed up for me was on the trip to Ghana about 4 years ago now. I remember that I heard you talk about the trip to Ghana, and I always wanted to go to Ghana. I didn't even have a passport, Linnell, before we went to Ghana. And I got my passport in April, went to the post office. My daughter explained to me I had the passport within 2 weeks. My first stamp on that passport is to Singapore. So before I even went to Ghana, I went west of Chicago, 22 hours to Singapore.
Mm-hmm. That's how it happens, by the way.
The first 2 steps on my passport are Singapore and Ghana.
How about that?
The other thing that happened was, of course, when I signed up to go to Ghana, I only had the down payment for Ghana. But in a week of making that down payment, I had the balance of the money to pay for the trip to Ghana.
Now explain that to the folks, Richard, because people don't get that.
So,
we don't understand that. Let me just pause real quick. Ade, do you get what he just said? Can you explain it back? Like, what just happened there? What just happened? Turn on his mic, Justin. I want to make sure, Richard, I really want to make sure people get this.
Yeah, that money mindset, Yeah.
Well, no, so yeah, all right, Justin, what do you got? Like, what do you take from what Richard just said? Your mic on?
I'm gonna need him to repeat that again. I couldn't grasp it.
You couldn't grasp it?
Yeah.
Richard, repeat it, man. And this is why I'm Paul. Can you repeat what you just said?
So what I said was I made the decision to go to Ghana with Linnell on the trip with Perry Small and Mama D and all of us went, right?
And hold on, you said you didn't have the money.
I didn't have the money.
All right, I want you all to hear this.
Linnell.
Go ahead, Richard.
I made my mind up to go.
He made his mind up.
Of making the down payment, I got the balance to pay for the trip to Ghana.
Did I not start the show and say money was mental?
Yeah, absolutely.
But hold on. Not only did he have enough money to go to Ghana, the brother went to Singapore. Richard, before you got your passport, was there a Singapore opportunity?
There was. I was involved with a business, and the conference was in Singapore. And so after I got the passport to go to Ghana, I said, well, I'm going to Singapore, too, now that I got a passport.
And before that, you weren't going to Singapore, were you?
I wasn't going to Singapore.
One of the reasons many of us are stuck is because we're stuck in our thinking, and our thinking has us, like it has us. Now, I can go down a list of people who have given me the same story about Ghana. I mean, because there was another young lady on the same trip. I don't think she minds me saying her name, and who was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. But she signed up, same thing, paid for it. And then, let me ask you this, Richard. Was it worth the investment?
It was so worth the investment, Linnell. Since we got back from Ghana, I've been supporting a family in Ghana. Well, you know the exchange rate now, Linnell, is 6-1. So for every U.S. dollar I send to Ghana, they get 6 CDs.
Right.
So when I was there, I met a family, a young lady and her 2 daughters, and I've been supporting them since we left Ghana.
Beautiful.
Because when I send them $200, it's worth, $1,200 in CDs.
That's 1,200 CDs.
And so I think that what you're saying, I heard you so clear this morning because I've been recently doing some work with myself around the fact that we call money currency because it has a vibration. And if you have a poverty mindset or you have an abundance mindset, that operates at a certain vibrational level, a certain current level.
It's energetic.
And what you're talking about, it's energy.
Yeah.
We got to raise our energy level. Linnell, this month I've given out 30 copies of Think and Grow Rich, 30 copies of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, 30 copies of U Squared, 30 copies of The Science of Getting Rich. I've been giving people books all month.
Hold on. This is from a guy who couldn't afford Ghana a few years ago?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, this is, when I tell you it's mindset, you all, it's mindset. The second mistake that we make is overlooking our financial growth education. Now, let me tell you why it's overlooked. The reason it's overlooked, we're taught to overlook it. The reason it's overlooked is because you will go K through 12, right? My son, the only lessons about money that he's gotten so far is from his mom and I. They have not, from what I understand already, in preschool, now he's going to kindergarten, they have not talked about money. Nor will they. Nor will they for the next 12 years. They won't talk. Now, he will be getting money lessons, let's be clear. But it's not going to come from his school. He's already getting money lessons because he's like, Dad, why we drive different cars? And I'm like, well, because, Dad doesn't own these cars. The company I have owns these cars. And so if somebody rents the car, then we let them take it for money that the company gets, that we take profit from, and we drive a different car. And he's like, Oh. Now, I know he doesn't fully get it. He just does that when he knows there's something profound being said. He's already learned to go, oh, wow, right? And he'll ask me again in a couple of days when he's like, why we driving this car, right? But the whole point is he's already getting those lessons. He's already getting those lessons. Many of us have it. Many of us have not. And so then what happens is we start to, in some ways, get this, well, I just don't understand money mentality because we were never taught money. And by the way, we weren't taught money purposely. Do you all know that our education system is based on Prussia's? Now, they don't even exist anymore, which is scary. But it was built off of Prussia's education system, I believe, back in the early 1930s. And the reason they chose Prussia's education system is because Prussia had proven that they did a good job turning out soldiers and factory workers. And the United States says, we need that too. Which is why there's no conversation about money. A soldier don't need to know nothing about money other than what he's getting paid. And a factory worker doesn't need to know anything about money other than what they're being paid. And if that's all they know, then guess what? They keep coming back. You want to know why most of us feel so insecure about entrepreneurship? It's because you went through 12 years of education that indoctrinated you to be insecure about entrepreneurship. This is why foreigners who weren't educated like us can come over and set up businesses. Almost no problem. They don't have anything in their pocket, but they're not looking for a job. That's weird. That's weird, because isn't a job how you get financially stable and rich? They come over and they're like, what business can I start? Oh, the black women like the hair. They like the nails. Let's sell them nails and hair. And that's what they do right in our neighborhoods. And before you know it, they driving better than us, living better than us, eating better than us, dressing better than us. Well, you might say they don't dress better because they don't dress better like that when they selling to you. But best believe me, when they go to hang out with their friends, they got on the Gucci belt and the Louis Vuitton scarf, and they like, we killing it over there on 63rd. I mean, be mad. You should be mad. The American consumerism engine is so powerful. I want you to think of it like a vacuum, right? Think of it like a vacuum that right now we had a vacuum that was like on this table. It would suck up anything that's not anchored down, right? Anything that's not anchored down, it would suck it up. When you don't have a plan for your money, it's not anchored down in this culture. Let's be clear. It's not anchored down. And so if I don't have a plan, it's going to be, fast food. I'm going to eat it up in fries and Cokes and new shoes and shirts. And it's American consumerism is a vacuum. One of the biggest mistakes we make in our community is we don't have a plan that anchors our money to something that makes it where the vacuum can't suck up our paycheck. What's your financial plan? Where are you going? I think this is one of the, when you marry the right person, this is one of the beautiful things about marriage, because like in marriage, you start to create plans. Sometimes when you're single, you just kind of like, moving around. But then, the responsibility of marriage, wife is like, so are we going on vacation this year? Like, oh, might need to plan for that. I don't want her to get upset with me if this money. So then, so all of a sudden, money that used to get sucked up by the vacuum has an anchor. That anchor is the vacation. Okay, I need to put a little something away for vacation. And by the way, if you don't have a plan and a savings plan and a plan on how you're going to keep your plan, it's still going to get sucked up. Let's be clear, okay? But that level of accountability that relationship brings, I think is another reason why couples tend to take off financially over and beyond singles, my personal opinion. Because it requires some level, like two incomes require some level of a plan. What are you doing with your money? What am I doing? Okay, you're responsible for that. There's a plan in place. And That's why, like, again, I believe, like, you see people get married and then financially excel because they're now planning in places that they didn't. Do not overlook your own financial vision and plan. That is a huge mistake. Going back to this whole idea of thinking you don't have enough money. Like when you have a plan, when you plan out the money you have, it changes your mentality. The only reason that young lady was able to bring me in at $30,000 is because she created a plan for the other half. This is how I'm gonna make it through the year. Set a budget. I'm gonna give you this, and then I'm gonna have that. And then she even asked me a critical question before we started. How long do you think it will be before I start to see a return on this investment? And I told her, I was honest. I was like, 9 months. I ain't going to tell you in the first month because we got to deal with your mentality. Then we got to teach you how powerful you really are. Then you got to really learn how powerful you are because it's going to be academic at first before you really realize it. Then we got to set your goals. That's in the 3rd month. Then you're going to have breakdowns and you're going to have to deal with your own mentality and run into yourself and figure stuff out. So you won't see a return on investment where you're like, oh, I made more this month, like 9 months. I can recall some years ago in my late 20s, I took an investment course, and the course cost me $5,000. And one of my buddies told me I was stupid for spending that much money. He said, man, them white folks got you. You went up in there. You think you about to be a millionaire now? You done spent $5,000. They done took your money. So, and I remember him saying it. He said it, you know, people say something vehemently, like it was like I could feel it in my spirit. I was like, ooh. So anyway, I'm like, well, I don't believe that. And I'm going to use this education and make my money back. And so I started investing in the stock market, option trading, equity trading. For those of you who understand these terms, you know, long-term leaps, shorts, things like that. And by the end of that year, I had turned that $5,000 of education into $30,000, like legitimate funds, right? Trading. And so he followed up and he was like, hey, man, you still doing that trade? And I'm like, yeah, man, it's going really well. He's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I made $30,000 this year. He's like, hey, can I give you some money to invest? I said, no, man, you know, I'm stupid, remember? You don't want somebody stupid investing your money. And he was, when I tell you he was mad at me, he was so mad, but I told him, I said, no, I need you to go invest at $5,000 and learn what I learned so you know how to invest your own money. But And he actually went and did that, and to this day, him and I, we often have conversations about, you know, different investment opportunities. But initially, and it's based on our training, he's like, that don't make sense. And that's what we have to get out of, like understanding. I have a client right now who's like taking a class that she spent $10,000 on to understand futures, et cetera. And she was telling me about it. I'm like, good for you, because we will spend $10,000 on something else that will not give back to us, like understanding the markets and understanding these type of things will. This is the fourth mistake that we make. I want you to hear me, like really listen to what I'm about to say here. The fourth mistake that I see us make is that we have little to no knowledge of taxes and their implications on the money we think we have. I'm going to say it again. One of the fourth big mistake I see us making, like, and here's the thing. Only time most of us talking about taxes, right? And you want to be a millionaire. You want to be a multimillionaire. But the only time you thinking about taxes is at the end of the year through April. Let me tell you about real millionaires. Real millionaires, we talking taxes all the time. My partners, I was talking to some of my business partners, and I'm like, you know, why are you buying the cheapest tires for that car? He's like, well, you know, I'm like, man, look, we need expenses for what? Tax write-offs, right? It's like, don't get the cheapest tires. We need tax write-offs. What sense does it make to give it back to Uncle Sam? Put good tires on the car. You know what I'm saying? Like, but taxes, we're talking taxes every day, all week, all month. Like, when you understand tax implications on your money, by the way, somebody right now is like, well, why would I talk taxes? Why do I care about taxes? Because that's your biggest bill. If you didn't know, let me tell you right now that your taxes are the biggest bill you got. And guess what else? They gonna get their money. It ain't like MasterCard where you can be like, well, I ain't paying them no more, right? It ain't like Visa where you say, well, I don't got it, so you don't get it, right? It ain't like American Express. It ain't like none of them. They gonna get their money. And if they don't get their money, they gonna take your privileges. You heard Richard talk about the passport? They'll be like, sir, you ain't going nowhere. You owe $20,000 in back taxes. They'll put that bill right in front of you. Oh, nope, no passport for you. They gonna get their money. But this is the one thing that many of us, we ain't having tax conversations. We more concerned about, ooh, Macy's got a sale. I can save 30% on a blouse. And it's like, no. Let's talk about tax savings. That's where you're going to really save some money. That's a trick. That's a consumerism trick, because you're going to go in and save 30% on the blouse and spend $100 more or $200. And they know that, because as soon as you walk in, they're going to be like, this on sale too. And you're like, oh, I didn't know they were having. I walked to Nordstrom's the other day. I walked in. I understand how it goes, right? Because I walked in Nordstrom's. I was looking for a shirt for my son. It's like, oh, I didn't know they were having the anniversary sale. Guess what happened? I was in the anniversary line, right? They know what they doing. They know what they doing. I messed up when I walked in. Okay? Little to no knowledge of our taxes. Now, somebody right now saying, well, I don't have enough money to tax. You know, I'm broke already. So, I mean, they're going to. This is why you want to know more. Let me give you one example, and then Maurice, I'm coming to you. Let me give you one example of what I mean. The less money you make, I think the more you should be concerned about taxes. Now, of course, your taxation is lower than the wealthy, but that's what you think. That's what you think, because some of you all are making a lot less than I do and paying a lot more in some ways. Now, let me give you an example of what I mean. When I had a W-2, well, W-2 is when I had a job, and I was getting, I had tax education because I went and got tax education. But I remember sitting in a meeting, and it was about the April time of the year, the first quarter of the year, and my executive coworker, we're all executives, my coworkers, they're all complaining about taxes. All of them. And this is one of the number one ways, like, just because folks are educated and making a lot of money don't mean they don't get this, right? Having little to no knowledge of taxes and their implications on the money that we have, or we think we have. They're all sitting around the table complaining about their taxes. Oh, man, they took this much, and, oh, we had to pay this much. And I was about to say something, but as the only brown man in the room, I realized if I said it, it was going to make him mad. Because I was making more than a lot of people at the table, and I was paying way less. And the reason I was paying way less is because I had financial growth education. I was employing little tricks, like I had a P.O. box right next to my office for my outside business, that I would write off the mileage to work and from work every day because I had to check my business P.O. box, right? I had all these little tricks that I was running, right? And by the way, these are These aren't just tricks. These are legal tax loopholes. You can play this to your IRS agent, and they'll go, well, there's nothing we can do about that. Nothing we can do about that. I was writing off my mileage to work and back with a W-2 because I had a business. I was doing all these different things. One of my businesses, all I did was take losses. But every time I took somebody to dinner, and back then I was single, I would just mention the name of the business. They'd be like, what's that? That's just something I do. Now I can write the dinner off. Right? To the young man out there paying for dates, you should have a business on the side. Write all those dinners off. My wife, when we first met, and I was telling her about this, she was like, oh, I want you writing our dinners off. I'm like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Right? If a man tells you he's writing the dinner off, don't be like, I feel cheated. No, you should be like, wow, he's financially educated. So, but these are the things we don't understand because we have little to no knowledge about taxes. And so then we end up giving away a large sum of our money every year that we don't even have to give away if we just made 1 or 2 or 3 chess moves. That's it. That's it.
My man, but first it's got to be about spirituality. That's the priority.
Yeah. Well, this is a spiritual thing. It's and I think a lot of times we don't realize that it's our spirit, which is the peace of God that he put in us that gives us creative capacity. So then when I am spiritual, like truly spiritual, and I hate that I gotta quote that, but there's a lot of religious spirituality and forms of spirituality and things. But when I'm truly spiritual, which means connected to my Creator,
amen,
then he is downloading into me the things that I need and the things that I need to know and understand. And that is when I am truly a member of his kingdom. And if I'm truly a member of his kingdom, then I get to create at these different capacities.
Amen, Linnell. Let me say this real quick about the kingdom thinkers who are not really connected. You know how we always say God is always on time? Mm-hmm. Well, I question, well, why you always late? And so I have a lot of fun with that sometimes, Linnell. But God, some of us might be through, but God ain't. So you just keep on doing what you're doing.
Maurice with the 1-2. All right. I love that, man. Good stuff. There's something for us all to be with. Good stuff right there. Good stuff. Thank you for the phone call. Yeah, man, this is, and it's once you get this down in your spirit, I think Art was saying it. Like once you get this down in your spirit, like everything could shift and you could be put in a completely different situation or circumstance and you'll rebuild everything that you have built before. Because it's in your spirit at that point. But we're so concerned with what's happening in the earth realm. Like true spirituality, you see the fruit of it. You see the fruit of it in someone's finances. And I'm going to stick with that, stick with it. I remember, here's another Ghana story. So I was in Ghana. Many of you who listen to the show, you've met Bishop Lance Davis, who is in Ghana with us as well, and was the mentor that took me on my journey when I went to Ghana years ago and supported me through my journey. And one of the questions I asked him when I was over in Ghana, I said, Bishop, why is it that so many of us are broke? Why is it that our community, and I get the impact of slavery and self-worth and all those things. I said, but even now, here we have, let's take African-American women who are the most educated segment in the world, et cetera. And, but we still struggle with money. I'm like, what is that about? And the first thing he said is spirit, because we're spiritually bankrupt. We're spiritually bankrupt. And then I came back and I said, right, but we all go to church. We all spend time in church. And he was like, yeah. And he said, the reason you're in Ghana is because a lot of what you're learning in the education system, and sometimes even in our churches, is just not true. And one of the main things Ghana does is it exposes the lies. And by the way, this is not these are not falsehoods that I believe that preachers and teachers, etc., are spreading on purpose. It's just a lack of knowledge. When you don't know the truth, you don't know you're lying. And you got to remember that we have been fed a lie. Many of us here in this American system, we've been fed a lie. Part of that lie is I'm inferior, right? It's part of the American doctrine. And that same doctrine spreads itself. And it ends up in the church. It ends up at the job. It ends up in the home. It ends up in all these places. It's insidious. And part of what Ghana does is freeze you. Like you see things like you never saw them before. When that happened for me, it was like light bulbs went off in Ghana, man. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so committed to this journey for us. And the fifth mistake that many of us are making is that we're not repairing or maintaining our credit viability. Now, if we were in a different time frame, I wouldn't have made this the fifth mistake. But I started the show talking about this upcoming recession, and so I want to spend a little more time here. So I ended the first hour talking about the $63 trillion of debt that the United States is in, okay? And this is how debt works, and this is what makes this particular recession different from other recessions, right? Because the 2008 recession was a real estate crisis. They had all these, now mind you, it was debt, right? But you had all these, mortgage derivatives that were backed by, these homes that had people that couldn't pay for them. And so eventually that was going to break down because it was bad debt, right? And that debt wasn't going to be repaid. And that's part of what caused the recession. Well, we're now in a place where the $63 trillion in debt, right? And this is, overall. So corporate debt, personal debt, business debt, United States debt. Because inflation is happening and not likely to go down, like I was saying, in the next 3 to 5 years, this debt is going to be being refinanced in different spots. So the debt went out at 1%, let's say, when everything was cool, but now it's being compounded. Like now we got to refinance the debt 6%, 8%, 10%. And for those of us right now who have credit, this is critical because when you have tier 1 credit, it just happened. I was, for the business, I was purchasing a car. And the last car we got was a high-end vehicle, over $100,000. And the guy quoted me a tier 1. He quoted me a tier 1 percentage rate. And I said, no, sir, I'm A1. And the percentage rate dropped substantially. So now I'm accruing debt for less while other people are accruing debt for more. So right now, and then here's what makes this important. This is the engine that America runs on. This is why people want to get into this country, you all. The reason they want to get into this country is because they understand that if I can build a business and secure a credit line and then take care of that credit line by taking care of my payments, I can get cheap money or be lent money in a way that's much cheaper than anywhere else in the world. When we go to Ghana, in order for someone to get a loan in Ghana, and this is one of the things that hurts certain countries, and I don't know if this is where we're going, but we got to look at the template for what happens because inflation is what hurts most countries and what causes, high interest rates where people can't get loans and slows down the economy. If you have poor credit right now, you are going to be paying more for everything. If you need a home, you're going to pay a lot more. If you need a car, you're going to pay a lot more. And I'm talking about need at this point, not want. You're going to pay a lot more. If you want credit, you're going to pay a lot more. And so right now, if you don't have good credit, I would say one of the biggest mistakes you're making is not doing everything you can to repair that credit and move yourself into a tier 1 bracket where you can then, even in a high inflation environment where interest rates are high, you can secure the best rates for yourself and for your family long term. That's the 5th mistake. Hey, my inspired peoples. Linnell Harris here, certified ontological coach and trainer. I'm so excited that you're watching the channel. By the way, did you know you can catch the show live at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every Sunday morning? You can. All you have to do is go to my Facebook stream, Coach Linnell Harris, catch the stream live, or you can listen to the radio show via iHeart at WVON 1690 AM. But since you're here, if you love the content, I ask that you share it, like this particular video, and subscribe to the channel. I hope you're having a great day.